What I mean by that is I don't know what kind of stuff is bizarre to people. Because, like, for example, if you tell me, oh, there's a place in Henan province where little boys pee in buckets and then they boil eggs in them and people eat the eggs, my ears don't even perk up for that anymore. Hey Loud Wonders, it's Loud86 here with another video. We're here with Vivi, of course, with the baby as well. It's a bit of a family day today. But today, actually, I'm going to talk about something that I thought was really, really interesting. The other day, I was watching one of my favorite channels called Abroad in Japan. And it's a kind of comedy expat channel about a guy in England, from England, sorry, that talks about his life in Japan. Anyway, long story short, he did a video talking about the things that changed him in Japan. Like, what about Japan changed him? And it actually is a really, really interesting question, an interesting point, because being in China now for 8 years, I kind of lose touch with what people notice, because I see in the comment section someone will be like, holy shit, is that kid pissing in the street? Or, oh my god, like somebody parked their car on the curb. I can't believe it. And it's like this kind of stuff that I don't even notice anymore. I completely like look past, because when you live here, eventually you acclimate, right? So I'm going to talk about 5 things that changed about me in China, or how China has changed me. And number 1 is absolutely that. It's, I don't know what's weird anymore. What I mean by that is I don't know what kind of stuff is bizarre to people. Because, like, for example, if you tell me, oh, there's a place in Henan province where little boys pee in buckets and then they boil eggs in them and people eat the eggs, my ears don't even perk up for that anymore. You tell me, oh, China only has one time zone, and so the western part of the country, the sun rises at 10 a.m. Well, yeah, of course, it's the Chinese government. What do you expect? They do that kind of stuff all the time. It's like a one-party state. My wife had to eat an entire chicken every day cooked in alcohol after she gave birth to our baby, and also wasn't allowed to wash her hair for an entire month. Yeah, that's normal. It's Chinese medicine. You can't argue with that. Kids piss in the street. People spit everywhere. So there's an entire kingdom of dwarves called the Dwarf Kingdom in Yunnan province, right? So they send like all these like little people from around the country to go live in this kingdom of dwarves for other people's entertainment. We've seen it. We hung out with them. Guess what? It's China. You can do that kind of stuff here. That's life. In order to cool off, what were you saying?
Men usually roll up their shirt.
To cool down?
To cool down.
We call that the Beijing bikini.
Belly.
Nice, it's very sexy. But again, I don't bat an eyelid at it anymore. So yeah, actually I think that's one of the hardest things about making videos here in China is being able to distinguish what people want to see and what you think is interesting enough to film. Because for the most part, like, I mean, if you were a newcomer here, you'd be blown away about how crazy this country is sometimes. But at the same time, if you live here for a long time, it just becomes the norm to you, you know? Number 2 is I definitely drive like a dick. That's absolutely the truth. And Vivi wanted to expose me for this, but I wanted to just be completely upfront with all you guys out there. I drive like a dick now, and it's because of China. I'm blaming it on China, okay? China is probably one of the least courteous places to be a driver in. And like, seriously, like I've been in situations when I first started driving here where I try to let pedestrians cross the road. And they just stand there in the middle of the road, and they're like a Chinese deer in the headlights. And they're like, who is this vanilla-faced McDonald's foreigner sitting in his car, like, letting me cross the road? It doesn't make any sense, you know? So in China, like, you cut people off. You get to the front, or you'll never get to where you're going. The funny thing is that I picked up all these bad habits, and when I drive in America, it became an issue.
You hung the horn in America.
Yeah, honking the horn became a really big issue in America because nobody does that unless it's like an emergency. People honk the horn for like literally no reason here. Now the ironic thing is that I don't see your bad driving habits here in China carry over to America, only mine did. What the f*** are you doing? I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, seriously, if you want to drive in China, cut people off, get to the front, or you're never going to get anywhere. Number 3 is something that's actually really, really serious, and that's valuing a person based on their worth before committing to a friendship. Now, it sounds really, really evil and brutal, but like, I'll still make friends with anyone. Nothing's changed in that respect, but it's the way you kind of value friendships and the kind of hierarchy that's involved when making friends here in China, because although, you know, you can, like I said in my friendship video or in my connections video, you guys both probably have y'all have a clear idea about how connections and friendships work here. and their differences, you know, in comparison to the West. But at the end of the day, it's a mentality change. And I thought it was pretty interesting because when you go back after being away for so long, and I go meet my friends from back home, you just pick up where you left off. And looking at friendships based on a hierarchy of what you can do for someone or what someone can do for you, and it really carries over to the business world here, for sure. Something I've learned. And it's kind of weird. It's like when I go back home, my friends are uncomfortable if I pay for the bill. But in China, we never split the bill. And to me, I've been here so long, it's really bizarre to split the bill. It seems awkward.
Sometimes people split the bill, but most of the time, like in adulthood, people like take the whole bill.
Right.
But in the, like just like young people just came out and stuff, came out to work and stuff, they do split the bill.
Yeah, but we are of age. We're 30 years old. And to me, that was really, really weird that like my friends, I think Westerners in general don't like the feeling of having to owe someone, and they don't like the feeling of being owed, right? And that's kind of something to me, I think that actually makes the ebb and flow of society and relationships in China is owing and being owed. You're always in a state of being owed or owing someone something, and that's kind of how relationships stay maintained.
In Chinese, we call 人情债. It's like the debt for owing people.
Right. And I think that's really shaped how I view friendships and view society now, which is really, really strange. And I think a lot of foreigners that go back home can take advantage of that in a business environment, but it also can make really awkward scenarios with other Westerners, for sure. It's Baby Xiao. It's Baby Xiao. Hi. The fourth one is probably actually the most important, and that's I'm not important. Now, what does that actually mean? I'm not important. Well, I meant in the grand scheme of society. Growing up in America, individualistic society. Everyone's themselves. They have their strengths and weaknesses. But here in China, it's not. It's a collectivist society. Did you make a friend? I can see you making friends with people in the windows. Yeah. So actually, when I first came here, I thought it was really interesting because I would say, I'd have conversations with Chinese people and I'd say, you don't know what happened there? You don't have access to Facebook and YouTube? You don't care about your freedom of speech and your rights? And it's funny because you use this Western lens or this American ideal that, these rights or your idea about how society should run is more important than anything else. And that's just so flawed because you realize very quickly the level of apathy that's involved with this kind of conversation. And it's almost like Westerners that come here and try to impose their values. I disagree that people, I think anyone should be able to say what they want to say, but to kind of come here with the expectation that you're going to change minds and open up this new level of freedom and teach Chinese people about stuff they didn't know, you'll find out really quickly that the majority of people don't care because at the end of the day, people want to play video games, they want to shoot hoops, they want to have dinner with their friends, they want to have a family. People's ideals and what they want in life are pretty much the same as Western values in that respect. So you're not going to make some epic humanitarian change here in China because for the most part, people are pretty satisfied with how things are going. I see. Oh, really? Do you agree? I see a lot of this attitude kind of mirrored in the comments section of my videos. People talk about, they banned some religion and they're selling their organs and all this kind of stuff, like this humanitarian aid. Oh, there's no freedom of speech and they can't do anything on the internet and blah, 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 blah. But that's, again, using a Western lens. It's using a Western sense of freedom and rights that people mostly, for the most part, don't consider here as something to be, tantamount to their happiness or something that they need to pursue in life. So it's a different way of looking at things, and you're not going to be some action hero that saves everyone from the evil dictatorship of communism when you come here. Right, Baby Xiao? David Day. The last one I actually wanted to talk about was expectations, and that's, I think, probably the most important one to pay attention to if you're a foreigner or a Westerner trying to come to China, whether to live or just to visit, but the expectations. And I'm going to start this out by just kind of paraphrasing what I see online, what's happening in the West right now, or at least in America. Now, after the whole, Trump presidency and all that kind of stuff, people were talking about a lot of issues, and it seemed like things were kind of getting out of hand, like people are complaining about a lot of stuff. And I see a lot of arguments like, trans people shouldn't be allowed to use public bathrooms and things like this. And, evolution shouldn't be being taught in a place that's, is supposed to be a Christian school, or, these kind of issues, for real. What are you doing? Really? 你干嘛? 你开玩笑吧，你妈个逼 You watch the baby. This guy in that Lexus right there, he beeped at me while I was filming with the baby, pulled the car right up in front of the kid and almost like hit her, and then beeps at me until I got out of the way. Sorry about that. I won't be able to put on YouTube what happened in that situation for fear of exposing a douchebag. Now, when I wasn't interrupted and someone didn't beep their horn of their car at my child as we were filming a little scene there, I want to continue what I was talking about, and that's your expectations. Now, all of this stuff that's kind of boiling over in the West, or at least in America right now, are things that people think are issues. And the funny thing is to me, when people are talking about all this stuff, I feel like there's a huge misconception, because I get a lot of comments that are like, things are going to hell here in America. Why would you bring your daughter back to this situation? Like, everything's falling apart. And all of these kind of problems that people are talking about, to me, are symptoms of a functioning, successful society. Because when you can complain about things like that, or when those are the only issues, then you know things are pretty good. And what I mean is that your expectations here, if you think that, like some of you say in the comments, that, you know, oh, and China is better, you know, the education system's probably better, you don't have to deal with Trump, or you don't have to deal with this transgender PC society, all this kind of stuff, you're missing the point. Like, China has other things to complain about. And I guess what I mean is that China's changed me in a way that I don't need to whine about societal issues anymore, because it's made me a laid-back person. Like, if I go to the bank here, there's a really good chance that they're not going to know how to deal with a Westerner, a foreigner, or a foreign passport or ID or anything. So I need to budget like 2 hours to get like something really, really simple done. Or it might take 5 minutes. It might be really, really easy. Another thing, if I plan to go drive to see Winston in Shenzhen, it should only take an hour. I should budget 3, because traffic jams where you get out of your car and have to play badminton with people kind of sharing the same lane with you because you're stuck there for hours does happen. It's happened. Maybe in that traffic jam you see a dead guy, because there's lots of traffic accidents here. Something you get used to, something to really complain about. Going to a new restaurant, I can't guarantee that I'm not going to have massive diarrhea the next day. Sounds ridiculous, but it's very, very true. And you get used to kind of getting sick here as a Westerner that grows up with, you know, decent food safety and hygiene standards. You see, maybe you see a beggar, like we did the other day, that is sitting there smoking cigarettes, an old lady actually, and she's got an alarm clock to tell her when she's off the clock for begging. You get used to it. People have a different standard of life here. There's ups and downs, there's highs and lows. Can I guarantee that my elevator won't collapse like it did last year? No, I can't. How to just kind of get past like the noise and all the crazy stuff going on around you hardens you into a person. And to me, that's probably one of the most important personality traits that I've taken away from China. So to sum it up, some of these changes are good, some of them are bad. It is stressful to live in China sometimes. It absolutely is. But at the end of the day, it is full of surprises, and I can safely say, I say this all the time, it's never boring.
Remember there's one time, like when we were just met and you went to Macau to visit me?
Yeah.
You cracked open a beer.
That never happened. Anyway, thank you so much, fellow winners, and I will, when I'm not being exposed by my wife for my dirty, dirty past, I will catch you on the next one.